This is the 2024 Chevy Blazer EV. Are you a soccer mom or a baseball dad that wants to drive a cleaner, more efficient vehicle? Is this one for you? Should you order one of these things? Today, let's find out. Now, I know that there's a few of you that are stuck in the 70s that are upset that Chevy is using the Blazer name for a soft-roading electric crossover, but you gotta keep in mind, not all Blazers were that great. There were a few that were maybe questionable. This one right here, this one's kind of cool. I think this one right here with 320 miles of range might convince a lot of families to go electric. With more electric SUVs hitting the market, how does the Blazer EV differentiate itself? Sporty, sporty, sporty. Aggressive athletic styling, character lines, round vents, evocative interior. It's basically going the complete opposite direction of the minimalist Tesla designs. But other than the design, is there anything that actually sets this apart from other electric SUVs? Is it a good option to cart around your family? Should you really be spending almost $70,000 on a family SUV? And is an electric SUV actually an environmentally conscious choice? Let's find out. So let's do a quick rundown on the specs. Consumers are demanding more and more range out of their EVs. And depending on the trim, you can get anywhere from 247 miles of range up to 320 on the RS, which is pretty competitive. All-wheel drive is standard on this SS. Front-wheel drive is standard on all of the other trims, but all-wheel drive is an option on the mid-tier 2LT and RS. So the SS comes with something called Wide Open Watts mode or WOW mode. Now, I've talked about this in the past. It's kind of a cheesy name, but what it does is actually quite impressive. It unleashes a massive 557 horsepower and 648 pound-feet of torque, which is ridiculous. 0 to 60 occurs in as little as 4 seconds, which is cool when you're shopping for a car and imagining and dreaming about racing up freeway on-ramps if they're not filled with traffic. But think about this for a second. We all know somebody in our lives that absolutely does not need access to a 557 horsepower. You know, your Uncle Larry, he's kind of a nut job behind the wheel. I don't want him having access to 557 horsepower, but it's kind of cool that you get it. It's ridiculous, but it seems a little overkill for a family SUV. Tesla set the bar high with stupidly fast acceleration and huge power numbers. 557 horsepower will probably sell a fair amount of Blazers, but it will also probably cause people to drive way faster than legally allowed. At least you have giant Brembo brakes in the front to slow you down. So what do you think of the design of the new Blazer EV? I'm usually not a fan of crossovers. I'm kind of one to think that station wagons and minivans are kind of a better way to get families around, but this crossover actually looks pretty good. It's really low to the ground, it's very wide, and it's not quite as tall as I thought it would be. Right here you got this light bar in the front. It can give you your charge status right up here, which is pretty neat. It's kind of Mercury Sable inspired, but it does some pretty cool things. So moving on to the side profile, this performance-oriented SS model gets gigantic wheels. What are these? What are these? They are 22-inch wheels. Base trims get 19-inch wheels and the RS gets 21. The SS also gets sport-tuned suspension for when you take the long way home, which, to be honest, you probably never will. I mean, you might, but no, you probably won't. Right here, check out this charge port. You wouldn't even know that it's there, but it's pretty cool. I like how they sort of hid this into the design, or maybe they sort of celebrated it into the design, depending on how you look at it, but that's a really cool design touch right there. So obviously you get level 2 charging at home. If you have a DC fast charger, you can charge up to 190 kilowatts, which is decent. It's not quite Tesla V3 supercharged fast, but it's still pretty good. 78 miles of range can be added in about 10 minutes, which is awesome. I'm pretty sure that's faster than a Mustang Mach-E. One of the things I really like about the design of this vehicle is how they kind of gave it kind of a slender appearance by adding this black area right down here. Kind of hides the height of the car a little bit, makes it feel a little bit longer. That's a really neat design touch. So out here in the back, the taillights look really nice. I don't really have much to say. This is just a really nice looking SUV from the back here. And it has that cool tailgate where it will open if you stand near it. Kind of neat if you're carrying a bunch of your kids' crap to put in the back. So in the rear here, a fair amount of space. I actually thought there would be a little bit more given the exterior dimensions of this vehicle, but obviously the seats can fold down. There's a decent amount of space in here. It's probably comparable to other mid-size SUVs. So obviously the massive benefits of the larger width of this vehicle, the larger size of this vehicle, is that me at 6'3", I can fit in here quite comfortably. I could probably fit 3 of me back here without any issues. You have the benefit of the really flat floor because of the skateboard style design of the battery pack. It's pretty nice back here. I definitely feel really comfortable back here on a long road trip. Obviously you got vents, you got USB ports like you would expect, and this massive panoramic sunroof, which looks really nice. Now in the front here, you're greeted by this massive 17-inch display and this 11-inch display in front of you. These screens are standard on all trims. It's hard to tell how distracting this will be as this is just a prototype. We'll have to wait until the production version is available. Though GM says it will provide easy and quick navigation to charging stations, which is good. Some EVs are not great at that. One of the things that I really appreciate about the interior of this vehicle is that there are actual physical controls for things that you access all the time, like temperature, fan speed. You can actually adjust the vents without going into a menu. There's buttons on the steering wheel. So those are the types of things that can help keep your eyes on the road where they need to be rather than screwing around on menus in the screen. So I really appreciate that Chevy thought about that in the design of this vehicle. In terms of comfort, yes, I can fit in here really well. The seat is not all the way back, but I can still fit in here quite well. Headroom is really good. Of course, there's loads of space for your stuff in here. The aesthetics are very pretty. You know, I think one of the things that's kind of nice about this is that they are not going for the minimalist Tesla look. They're kind of going for a really expressive, bold look. One of the things that I've been really concerned about lately with new cars design is visibility. Cars are getting larger and larger, and with new vehicles, visibility is generally getting worse. Blind spots are often much bigger, belt lines are much higher. Now, the belt line is very high on this vehicle, so it might be a little bit hard to see out the side. The front is pretty big, a little bit hard to kind of judge where the front of the vehicle is, but one of the things that I really appreciate about this particular car is that it's not towering over pedestrians. You can actually see, if your kid is in front of this vehicle, you'd actually be able to see them. In terms of features, it's got everything you could possibly think of. When you walk into the vehicle just starts. You don't have to worry about turning it on. It just immediately starts and it's ready to go. GM Super Cruise driver assist technology is available. It allows for hands-free driving on pre-mapped freeways and uses cameras to monitor the driver's attention. And this is great because of traffic and super long commutes. A lot of people don't actually really like driving. They'd rather the car do it for you. It also comes with automatic park assist because who wants to learn how to parallel park? That's for plebeians. So what does all of this cost you? The mid-level 2LT and high-range RS will ship first in summer 2023, starting at just under $48K and $52K before destination charge. The SS will come later at $66,000. The entry-level 1LT at $45,000 won't be arriving until 2024, so yeah, the cheapest one is still 2 years out. If you factor in the average new car loan interest rate at about 8% over 60 months, the total price of a Blazer EV SS, including fees and finance charges, could top $85,000. But the pricing is similar to the Mustang Mach-E, which is likely one of the prime targets of this Blazer. Obviously, I haven't driven it yet, but on paper, this SS seems like the least compelling out of the bunch. Sure, it has 557 horsepower, but I'd much rather just have the extra range. If it were me, I'd opt for the 1LT or 2LT. But actually, I'd probably just opt for a minivan. Chevy, build me an electric Lumina APV. You know me, I like cars from the 80s and 90s. This is what I really want. Whether you like it or not, EVs are where the car industry is headed. If you can do most of your charging at home, an EV is going to be much cheaper to operate than a gas-powered equivalent. And depending on where your power comes from, it will most likely be better for the environment over the long term, even when factoring the slightly higher CO2 emissions generated during manufacturing. When you look into the amount of pollution that goes into oil production, drilling, refining, and transporting, there are few scenarios where the electric car doesn't come out ahead. I don't have any information about the battery or efficiency just yet, though it seems likely they'll share the 100 kilowatt-hour battery system used in the Cadillac Lyriq. And while we can all be excited that the new Blazer offers up to 320 miles of estimated range, we do need to keep in mind EVs with larger battery packs and higher ranges are usually less efficient and worse for the environment. More CO2 emitted during production and more weight to drag around with you everywhere you go. Hopefully we'll see lighter battery technology emerge over the coming years, which would help EVs become safer and more efficient. You probably don't want to use your EV for a road trip right now, unless it's a Tesla. EV charging in the US still kinda sucks. The good news is that GM is partnering with Pilot, Flying J, and EVgo to build 500 charging stations. For electric cars to make a bigger impact, chargers along freeways are most certainly needed. So ultimately, I don't think this Blazer has destroyed the Model Y. The Tesla charges faster and currently has much better charging infrastructure. And depending on your taste, the minimalist Tesla interior might be more pleasant. But I don't think the Tesla is going to even come close to the build quality of the Blazer. And while personally I'm ambivalent about the Blazer's interior aesthetics, I greatly prefer the physical controls, the knobs and switches to perform basic tasks. And of course, the Mustang Mach-E is probably a really close competitor. I guess it just depends on if you like the styling or not. I know a lot of people are upset about the Blazer name, but I guess at least they didn't call it a Camaro. All right, so what do you think of the new Blazer EV? Let me know in the comments below. Thanks so much for watching. I hope you're well, and I'll see you soon.
Computer modulated anti-lock brakes. For two or more, the Chevy Lumina 8PV.
Okay. Chevy's S10 Blazer 4x4 with shift on the fly Insta-Track.